right, City Council meeting to order. We are going to start with the invocation by Pastor Rich Miller, followed by the Pledge Allegiance led by Council Member Kalisa Rochester. So if you please stand.
All right, let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this evening and we want to thank you and praise you for your goodness. Father, as is said in your word, the Bible, we're to praise you for you are good and your mercy endures forever. Father, we just pray that you would bless the meeting tonight. We ask for wisdom from above. Father, we ask that you might be honored and glorified in the things that we do here in our city. Father, we do pray that you put your hand of protection not only upon those that are serving, but Father, just on our city as a whole. Father, we pray that you'd protect her from evil, and Father, we pray that once again, all the decisions that are made tonight would be for the benefit of our community. In Jesus' name we ask it. Amen.
All right, let's start with the roll call.
Ambrose?
Here.
Kale?
Here.
Raymond is absent. Rochester?
Here.
Nelson?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Do we have any subsequent need items?
Mayor, there are none.
All right. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as posted?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kale, second by Rochester. Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Rochester?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, we're going to have a presentation this evening. Chief McEachin is going to join me up front here. We're going to recognize the accomplishments of the Atwater High School forensics team that competed in a recent statewide crime scene investigation competition.
I always hesitate to give the police chief the microphone, but well, this is a different chief, so it's okay. So, Chief, why don't you tell us what's going on here tonight with these great kids?
So this group of kids did a local forensic competition, and they placed really well, and they were invited to the state competition. And prior to doing that, during one of their classes while they were practicing, they asked if we could come out and set up a mock crime scene for them. And our community service officer, Danny Ortiz, came out and set up a really good, elaborate homicide scene for them. And it was really cool to watch them investigate and work with each other, and just watching them figure out what clues they needed to prioritize and what the evidence they needed to mark, and being very careful not to contaminate their crime scene. And it was really cool to watch them in action. And I knew they would do well in state, and they did very well in state. You guys finished third, correct? Fourth. Finished fourth in state, which is really a great accomplishment. And so we wanted to honor them and thank them for their hard work. Not yet. Okay, first up is Elaine Tam. Karina Figueredo. Michaela Whitfield. Alana Espinoza. Abigail Figueredo. Jasmine Flores. Jordan McDowell. Lucas Lowe. Mia Castaneda. Natalie Avila. It's pretty impressive that for every certificate, someone was actually here. That doesn't happen all the time. So it's nice that you all were able to make it. I know school's over now, so we were kind of worried that maybe you guys would be on your summer vacations already, but thank you guys for making this a priority. Did you guys want to say anything?
All right, we're going to move on to the consent calendar.
Background information has been provided on all matters listed under the consent calendar, and these items are considered to be routine. All items under the consent calendar are normally approved by one motion. If a council member requests separate discussion on any item, that item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
All right, is there any public comment regarding the consent calendar? Seeing nobody come forward, I'm going to close public comment. Are there any items on the consent that the council would like to remove for separate discussion and possible action? Seeing none, I would like a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Motion to approve the calendar, consent calendar.
Need a second.
Second.
Motion by Ambrose, second by Kale. Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Rochester?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, we're going to go to the first of several public hearings. First one being item 4, adopting a resolution setting the fiscal year 2025-26 miscellaneous fee schedule. I'm going to open the public hearing, and Finance Director Nicholas will be giving the staff report.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I am going to read from the staff report. This is just a routine item that comes forward before the end of the fiscal year every year. And so I'll read the report to give some background information for those of us that are in attendance today. Each fiscal year, the City of Atwater sets the citywide miscellaneous fee schedule to assist with cost recovery for providing services. The proposed miscellaneous fee schedule provides a legally defensible cost recovery program to ensure that the city receives appropriate fees for services provided and supplies the City Council's goal of following sound financial practices. The miscellaneous fee schedule is adjusted annually every July 1 after City Council approval. After reviewing the existing fees, if necessary, adjustments are made using the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index, all urban consumers not seasonally adjusted West region, by the percentage of change in the index from the month of April of the same year. All amounts are rounded to the nearest whole dollar. The percentage of increase in the index over the past year was 2.128%. This is by comparison of 3.682%, which was applied for the current fiscal year of 24-25. The proposed miscellaneous fee schedule reflects this percentage increased in each fee where applicable. Of note, the city is currently under study with a consultant to produce a new master fee schedule, and it will be brought forward to the City Council in the future for review, consideration, and approval. So this fee schedule, because that one is underway, this fee schedule has no changes other than the CPI of 2.128%. to 8% applied to the fees that are allowed to have that increase. And that concludes my report.
Okay, council have any questions? Okay, not hearing any. Is there any public comment on this item? So please come forward. Okay, seeing nobody come forward, I'm closing the public hearing. Can we get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rochester, second by Ambrose. Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Rochester?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, so now we're going on to item 5, which is several resolutions adopting the fiscal year 2025-26 budget, including the 5-year capital improvement plan, and approving fund expenditures and fund transfers, establishing appropriations limitations, and amending the classification plan, and adopting salary schedule A26 effective June 20, 2025. And the city manager will lead off on the staff report. I'm opening the public hearing.
Yeah, so we had a successful meeting on May 27th, gathered input from the public and the council. We also had a few more comments that we learned in our strategic plan workshop on May 31st. And what we did is we made a few changes that will be highlighted by Finance Director Nicholas to the budget. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you again. Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Staff, and Community. I am very pleased to present this item to you this evening. This item has a few things rolled into one, as the Mayor mentioned, the main being the fiscal year 25-26 budget. It also includes the calculated appropriations limitation and a revised salary schedule to reflect the 25-26 salary that will be in effect. I'm going to read the staff report that has been provided in the agenda packet and follow it up with a very brief PowerPoint. The city staff began the budget preparation process for fiscal year 25-26 after the current mid-year budget task had been completed. All the city's municipal departments have collectively worked to produce a budget that will maintain or improve the city's service levels while being mindful of operating with constrained resources. The fiscal year 25-26 proposed budget provides the city with the authority to use resources for the benefit of the community and is part of the annual budget process in which the City Council approves and adopts the budget by June 30th of each year. This action allows for expending funds for the new fiscal year beginning July 1. The fiscal year 25-26 proposed budget is drafted with estimates based on available data and known factors at the time the budget is prepared. On May 27th, 2025, a budget workshop was held to present the draft fiscal year 25-26 proposed budget that allowed for review of the estimated revenues and expenditures contained in the annual operating budget and capital improvement plan. On May 31st, 2025, the city conducted a strategic planning workshop that provided additional opportunity for budgetary discussion and public comment. At the time the proposed budget is compiled for the upcoming fiscal year, early projections available are used for revenue and expense estimates. Knowing these estimates could change over the next several months, the city performs a mid-year review of the budget in which revisions to the early estimates can be made if needed. The preparation of the fiscal year 25-26 proposed budget utilized a hybrid approach of both zero-based budgeting, which basically means any new additions to the budget need to have justification, and traditional budgeting methods, which typically is incremental budgeting, with the latter being the foremost method used for the development of the budget. The budgeting process is a function carried out throughout the fiscal year and is a highly collaborative process among all the municipal departments. City governments are not immune to external economic events such as price increases, as all departments have felt the impact of increased expenses on the department operating budgets. Sales tax revenue projections remain relatively flat in comparison to the previous few years. With this budget, city staff took a pragmatic approach to carefully allocating costs to appropriate funds and created a sensible and fiscally sustainable spending plan for the fiscal year. City Council will be adopting an updated strategic plan in the coming months, which will help guide and facilitate the allocation of resources in future fiscal years. Looking at the general fund, the proposed budget revenue and expenditure estimates, revenues 20.64 million, expenditures 21.86 million, which is over of 1.2 million. Of that, one-time spending of 109,000, which leaves a general fund structural deficit of $410,482. The general fund revenue and expenditure estimates are preliminary and will be monitored throughout the duration of the fiscal year. The City Council will be apprised of any major changes in these estimates during the mid-year budget review process. The city could experience some cost savings that would help reduce some of the estimated expenses. At certain periods of time throughout the fiscal year, there are vacancies for budgeted personnel that provide cost savings. In addition, the CAL FIRE agreement may yield savings if the full agreement amount is not reached through the fiscal year. Should this scenario not be likely in the upcoming fiscal year, there is an appropriate undesignated balance in the general fund to cover the structural deficit. However, this is an area of priority for strategic planning in which the ongoing revenues need to cover ongoing expenses in order to preserve the general fund balance for necessary one-time costs, economic downturns, and other unforeseen events that could significantly impact the incoming revenue streams and outgoing costs of the city. By way of resolution number 3068-19, the city is required to keep 10% of the estimated fiscal year general fund expenditures in reserve. The fiscal year 25-26 budget meets this requirement. Additionally, this budget allows the city to meet the goal of 25% of the estimated expenditures for the general fund to be reserved. The city will continue to work diligently on maintaining this elevated goal of ensuring 25% of estimated operating expenses are reserved for emergencies while budgeting for service delivery with constrained resources. Based on the current fiscal year of 24-25 and the upcoming fiscal year of 25-26 estimate, the general fund is projected to have a fund balance of $14.9 million at June 30, 2026. Our gas tax revenues, which are combined of highway users tax known as HUDA and SB1 road maintenance rehabilitation account, which is RMRA. Combined, these are known as gas tax, provide revenues to be spent on local streets and roads in the areas of operations and maintenance, street projects, and other related costs. The estimates used for this budget were released with Governor Newsom's May revised budget. The collective total estimate for the City of Atwater 25-26 fiscal year is $1.745 million to be received during the fiscal year. This is a slight increase from the current 24-25 revenue projections of $1.67 million. For the classification plan salary schedule, the amended City of Atwater classification plan and salary schedule will be effective June 19th and includes a 2% cost of living adjustment for the Atwater Police Officers Association bargaining group. For our CalPERS unfunded accrued liability, this was a question that came up in strategic plan, so this is now answered here for anybody who wants that information. And the question was, what is our funded status for our CalPERS plans? So that has been provided in the staff report. For 25-26, the annual prepayment amount for all the tiers the city participates in is $2.6 million. By paying the full amount in July versus monthly payments, the city is able to save approximately 3% in cost, which has been included in the budgeted amount. The City of Atwater has 5 plans with CalPERS. Each plan has a funded status and an unfunded accrued liability. Overall, amongst all of our plans, if you average them out, we're 78.2% funded. The overall funded status ratio for CalPERS estated at June 30, 2024 is 75%. So we're good in comparison with the state, the overall state of the plan for CalPERS. But as you'll see in that chart, we have 2 plans that are a little below that, and those are our most expensive plans, the miscellaneous and the safety plan, which are our classic plans. For our insurance premiums, the City of Atwater is a member of the Central San Joaquin Valley Risk Management Authority, which we call the RMA. It's a joint powers authority which serves as a city's insurance coverage for various coverage programs. In addition to pooled insurance rates, the RMA provides additional benefits to member cities such as contract review, risk management training, and invaluable employee safety training. The 25-26 budget includes a premium increase of approximately 16% from the prior fiscal year. The premium is paid through allocation of multiple funds. The total estimated contribution that has been included in the proposed budget is $2,420,905, which is the total combined premium and amount for all the programs that the city participates in. For our capital improvement program, the fiscal year 25-26 budget includes $16.3 million in program expenses planned in multiple funds. This program was presented to Planning Commission on May 21st and was also presented as the part of the proposed budget workshop on May 27th. And the full capital improvement program is detailed in the budget document. The fiscal year 25-26 appropriations limit has been calculated. The appropriations limit for 25-26 is set at $66,711,927. The appropriations that are subject to the limitations are $52,218,193, and therefore they're well under the appropriations limit and are not anticipated to exceed the appropriations limit. Some other notable items for the fiscal year 25-26 budget. The proposed budget has funding to add 2 part-time community services officers, 2 water systems operators, conversion of a part-time building maintenance worker to a full-time position, and a staffing reorganization in the community development department. The budget includes funding to purchase a new mower for our parks operations and to fully pay for the purchase obligation for the city's new Type 1 fire engine. Looking forward in some of the other items of consideration, and we went over this in more detail at the budget workshop, but just as a recap, the sewer fund, in addition to ongoing operations and maintenance, this fund maintains debt service, and it's imperative to establish user fees to cover ongoing operations and maintenance and debt service. The sewer rate increase needs to be evaluated and, if warranted, adopted to ensure debt coverage can occur while maintaining sufficient revenues to cover ongoing expenses. The CFD Public Safety Fund is projected to run a deficit based on revenue and expense estimates, therefore requiring a general fund transfer. The true cost of providing the public safety services is not being accounted for in this fund, as there are costs associated with centralized services and administration that the general fund picks the tab up for. Public Safety Transaction and Use Tax Fund has been balanced with estimated ongoing revenues and estimated ongoing expenses. Similar to the CFD, the Public Safety Transaction and Use Tax Fund does not capture the full cost of providing the services, as the general fund picks up administration and other centralized services. And the estimated transfer of that subsidy to the CFD is part of that structural deficit. The current CAL FIRE agreement includes a 5% cost escalator, and the POA agreement includes the 2% COLA And then also the 2% COLA effective next year will be factored into 26-27 budget. In summary, the fiscal year 25-26 budget will allow for the city to adopt a spending plan for continuity of services beginning July 1, 2025. Budgets serve two primary purposes for local governments: a developed spending plan and a communication tool to convey the services and projects of the city's operations. City staff have met these two objectives by estimating revenues and expenditures with available data to minimize any potential large fluctuations in resources balanced with service delivery, and by communicating the adopted priorities and projects of the City Council. I have a very brief PowerPoint to just wrap up some of the numbers. So for all of the projected funds, that's on the very top left corner is $68.4 million for the revenue. The program for capital improvement program expense is $16.3 million. Operating expense, what we call our operating budget, $68.7 million. Of that expense, the total personnel cost is broken down right below that blue arrow. General fund total personnel cost, so this is all salary and benefits, is $9.8 million, and then all the other funds, $6.2 million. For our general fund, the revenues are estimated at $20.6 million, expenditures at $21.8, and then you can see the difference of $1.2 million. Taking out the one-time spending of $809,000, we're left with the $410,000 structural deficit. Directly to the right of that is the breakdown of the $809,000, so you can see what those one-time costs are. We have the fire truck type 1 payoff amount, which is $634,000. The one-time purchase for the mower is $50,000. And then fire station building repairs, $125,000. And then the last chart down at the bottom is just showing the estimated revenue and expense for the general fund. And what this is showing you is that we're meeting that 25% reserve that's been a target, and that's 25% of the estimated general fund expenses for the fiscal year. Since we last met, the changes that have been made, we added 2 part-time community services officers to Fund 4, which is Measure B, Public Safety Transaction and Use Tax Fund. We included 25-26 carryover project costs for the Fruitland Avenue. Those just hadn't been in the CIP, so we just had to add those in. And then we moved the Merced County Mechanic Cost Sharing Agreement from Fund 4 to Fund 0001, which is the general fund. And we moved the purchase payoff amount for the Type 1 fire engine to the general fund from Measure B. Next steps and some areas of consideration. Identify and implement strategies for closing the structural deficit. We know we potentially could have one in the general fund, but then we know that there potentially could be some in the sewer fund and that CFD public safety fund. Some of these items are going to be addressed more in the strategic plan that's coming forward, but revenue, looking at ways to increase and diversify revenue streams. We know costs are going to continue to go up, so we need to focus on some ways that what kind of revenues we want to see coming into the city, and increasing current revenue streams and then diversifying new sources of revenue. Cost recovery and fees and programs, which we do have that in progress. Continue capitalizing on our strengths, doing timely rate studies, and make sure that if that rate study warrants an increase, that we follow through with the adoption of that. And then each department, the department heads do ongoing expense review year-round. There hasn't been a lot of areas of cost savings, but that is something that's always on their radar, and also looking at streamlining agreements and capturing any areas that we could possibly have some expense, suppressing at least the expenses. And then policy reviews. Strategic, That's okay. Strategic plan creation, adoption, and implementation. Then the next step in this budget will be mid-year review, and then year-round budget amendments come forward to council as needed. And that is the end of the slides. I just want to add a brief footnote to the report. I just want to commend everybody that's been involved in this season of the budget process. The community collaboration, I think, helps show what possibilities lie ahead for Atwater. It's a solid spending plan that allows for continued service levels while adding public safety services and reducing the general fund structural deficit. We were able to add the 2 positions in our water operations department, and it provides a sensible spending plan to help council as they move forward this fiscal year with creating their new strategic plan. So thank you to the city manager through this process, and I'd like to thank all of the employees, whether they work directly or indirectly. We're all stewards of the city's fiscal resources, and so I think they all deserve a big shout out to running a full service city. You need a broad range of talent and skills, and we're very fortunate that we have that here. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Director Nicholas. Thank you for all the work that you did on this budget. This is an important document for us all. And I just want to note on the agenda, since we've got this item and the one that follows it is the fire mechanic agreement. Because the fire mechanic agreement is part of the budget, it's kind of a chicken or egg deal. So if anyone has any questions about that agreement, since it's part of the budget, we can definitely have Chief Ayuso provide a presentation or talk about and answer any questions on that item, and this would be a good time to do that. If we have any takers on that.
Well, let me ask, does the council have any questions regarding the budget first?
I don't have any questions. I do have a couple of comments. The first comment that I have is I just want to thank staff for putting together the budget. Under the looking forward and items of consideration, the only couple of things that I'll note is under the sewer fund, I do understand that we're operating on a deficit. However, with the interceptor going in at Castle, I would encourage staff to wait before we explore an increase to the sewer fund. On the taxpayers, I would prefer to wait and see how much water we're taking in from Castle, so that the burden doesn't fall solely on the taxpayers based on that deficit, because I know that we'll be getting a reading once we get that interceptor put in, right? I see you shaking your head yes, Justin, so I'm going to say yes. Okay. And then the other comment that I have is just related to the public safety transaction and use tax fund. The language, the true cost of providing the public safety services is not being accounted for in this fund, and there are costs associated with centralized services and administration. I just want to remind everyone that the ordinance 1050 clearly states that public safety, the tax is used to supplement, not to supplant our public safety services. So just want to make sure that we make note of that.
Okay, thank you. Now, per the city manager's request, does anybody have any questions about the fire mechanic contract?
I did just have one question. I know I've been in contact back and forth with several individuals regarding the contract, but the only real question or comment that I have is primarily related to the rapid response on servicing the engines. And I know, Chief Ayuso, that you responded to my question there, but just for the benefit of the public, I did have concerns related to what rapid meant and how that would be measured, because I want to ensure that we're getting good return for our investment on the mechanic. And so just want to make sure that our chief pays close attention to that language and that we are getting our fire engines back sooner than what we would have anticipated if we would have been sending those engines out.
Absolutely. So I can elaborate a little bit on that specifically. As of today, actually, I'll be reassigned to Merced County. There is a battalion chief that oversees the county shop, and that will be one of my job duties specifically. The idea and concept behind this agreement was to, one, expedite service and maintenance of all apparatus. Currently, we're looking at an average of about 3 to 4 months turnaround for apparatus to come back to us. It does hinder us on allowing abilities to gain additional revenue for the city on assistance by hire agreements and sending equipment out of county to bring revenue back to the city. On top of that, and probably the most important thing would be a cost savings. And we're hoping in working with the rest of staff, just like to notate that currently we're at $124,000 worth of labor alone on fire apparatus. And that's only 3 of our 4 fire engines that have been sent in for service this fiscal year. We have had ongoing issues for several years regarding the ability to, even because of the 3 to 4 month turnaround, have an accurate number behind what the associated cost was to service all of the equipment, because we weren't seeing it all get serviced in the same year, which also brings another concern as a supervisor. And having my employees operate equipment that hasn't been serviced in the time frame that is required. But again, we're at $124,000 right now in labor. That averages us about $40,000 per piece of equipment the way we stand right now. And the mechanic is going to cost $65,000 max. It's going to be based off of actual costs. So if the position doesn't get filled until September, we will still receive the service that we are going into agreement with the county, and they will start helping us as of tomorrow is where we're at. They will start running equipment. If we have any issues with equipment, they're going to assist us. Now, if the position doesn't fill till, say, September, we will only pay that position based on when it's filled. And on top of that, it does not mean that we will never have to send anything out to a third party, because just like anything else, our vehicles, if we have a major issue with, say, motor work or something of that nature, it may still need to get sent out. So working with staff, we have come to an agreement that it would be advisable for us to do a 1-year agreement that allows a 30-day termination between either party. If it doesn't work out for us and come mid-year budget, we're looking at the numbers, doesn't seem to benefit us, we're not getting quite as good of turnaround as you had mentioned, then we can remove ourselves from it. It doesn't put us into an agreement any longer than we would like. So without kind of going into depth on a few other items, unless you want me to elaborate further with the rest of my report as far as that topic goes, I think I kind of answered at least the question you have for that. But there are other issues of concern that I'm fully aware of that have come up through the community and council members that I would be happy to address during the next presentation.
Yeah, let's let you finish your presentation at the next item, or we finish this. Do either of you have questions? Okay, so going back to the budget, is there any public comment on this item? If so, please come forward.
Good evening, council and staff. Looking through the budget, there's a lot to look through, so I just look at kind of the little areas that I'm familiar with. But I did see under the ARPA section, from the last 3 years, we've spent $1.68 million, including the 83 we have scheduled for this year on Civic Center 2. I don't even think that includes the purchase of it, because we've owned that building for 4 or 5 years. So it's a lot of money to spend to put 5 pounds of crap in a 2-pound bag, or 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag. We probably could have used that money a little bit wiser and built a bigger building or expanded this building. So it's a little disappointing to see how much money we've spent on that, and curious what the $83,000, I mean, the building's done. You guys gave a tour. I'm thinking that the building's done. So I don't know what the $83,000 is for this year. So just curious about that. And then hopefully, I'm glad to see that you guys have $160,000 in there for pavement marking and sign maintenance. It was in there last year, I think, too, carrying over to this year. So hopefully we get some of that done so people can see the stripes in the road before it starts raining. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hello, everybody. Page 117 of the budget, police lieutenant salary 156,597. Then on page 213 of the budget, police lieutenant salary 142,360 and 90 cents. I was just wondering why these two pages have two different salaries for lieutenant. Also on page 34, improvement other than building, 125,000. I'd like to know what that was for.
All right, any other comments?
The cost of the mechanic, what fund is that coming from?
Well, according to the presentation, it's coming from the general fund.
Okay, yeah, good. There's also, are we talking about the budget as a whole right now, Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
or just about the mechanic?
No, this is the whole budget.
Okay,
The fire mechanic is the next item.
okay. So in looking through the budget, what I don't see, and with a deficit, we should be seeing some salary caps, some hiring freezes, something along those lines. We need to start looking at everything when it comes to closing that deficit. So why aren't we seeing the, caps, salary caps, and hiring freezes? We need to start looking at that stuff. 25% going into the reserve, that's a lot of money. And with a deficit, I get it, that you want to go and build that up, but right now we need the money to close the deficit. And that doesn't seem to be very practical at this point. Overall budget revenue amounts $68,474,360. Total expenses $85,169,612. Guys, there's a big gap right there. I didn't have the page. I didn't print it out for some reason or other, but I noticed for out on the road consultants, if you will, are we still budgeting for the BVH consultants to go and take us for a ride like they've been doing? There's a lot of money out there that I'm afraid. And also for salaries, guys, why can't you guys just get together and say, you know what, let's knock ours down by 10%. Would anybody here really suffer of a 10% reduction? We're looking at a lot of money here, and we need to do something to go and make it all make sense to the public. We're going to need to do that. This is not, monopoly money. We need to go and pay this deficit and get it squared away. And also, with regard to Castle, and you don't have a dollar amount, but for the Bureau of Prisons, you have 55,000. Why can't we match 55,000? At least something going in there, but we don't. We don't have anything coming off the sewer line.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing nobody else come forward, I'm closing the public hearing. City manager's going to answer some of those questions.
Okay. I think one was already answered, but the fire mechanic is coming out of the general fund. Some of them are comments. So I think one thing that Mr. Price said was about the deficit, using the 25% reserve to close the deficit. So the deficit is a formula. I'll try to make it real simple. So we take in a certain amount of money and we spend a certain amount of money. And if we spend more, and I'm not talking about one-time funds because those are separated out, but if we spend more ongoing expenditures, more than we bring in ongoing revenues, then that is a deficit. So the deficit in this budget is just over $400,000. Separate from that, we have our fund balance, and we have a reserve policy for 25% of the calculation is basically what our operating expenses are, which is close to $20 million, just rounding it. 25% of that needs to be held in our account balance, so about $5 million should stay in that account balance to meet that 25% goal. So every year that we have a deficit, it means that we're slowly eating into our fund balance. And fortunately, our fund balance is much more than 25%. We have some buffer there that will get us through for a number of years. So we're in a healthy state, but we're not in a healthy trajectory, which means we need to close, and the way that we close that that structural deficit, I mean, of course we're going to be covering it, each year until it's closed with the balance. So that's what we're doing. So the idea of using that reserve to close the gap, that's what we do every year. But to really get rid of the deficit, we need our ongoing revenues to be greater than our ongoing expenses. And that's something that we're working on in many different ways. So we need to bring in more money, different funding streams. We're evaluating things like in the future we'll bring transit, a TOT tax on hotels that'll help us. But there's a number of things that we're working on, including not just more revenues, but also keeping the costs in check. So it's a team effort, and it's a multifaceted strategy, and a lot of the things that we talked about at the strategic plan workshop go right into that. Another question was, are we still budgeting for VVH consultants? The city has put out an RFP, a request for proposals, so that we can evaluate an engineering firm or firms to provide us staff augmentation. We've worked with VVH for a number of years, and since it's been, about 8 years, it's about time that we look at, do we continue, or are we going to go with a different firm? And that process is underway right now. We're evaluating the responses that we received to that RFP. The deadline to respond was last week. And the plan is to have that evaluation occur this month. And our goal is to bring to the City Council at the June 23rd meeting staff's recommendation for a path forward on that engineering services staff augmentation on that response. And I think that covers it.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so I'm now closing the public hearing. I think I already did that. Would anybody like to make a motion?
Can I ask some questions,
Sure.
clarifying questions before we move forward?
Of course.
I wrote down a note regarding the ARPA expenditure for $85,000 for Civic 2. What more do we need to do in Civic 2?
Yeah, I can answer that. So we are just waiting on the AC software so we can remote access into the AC. So that's about $19,000, and then the rest is retention. So I won't close the project out until the city actually receives the software, which we haven't got yet. So if I get it by next week, we can close a project and come on the 23rd as a notice of completion, and then we don't need it for next year budget, but I'm putting there just in case. That way we don't have to do a budget amendment.
And then what about improvements other than building? I had a question about that as well for clarification.
Yeah, that was regarding Station 41 improvements this year in working with Public Works Director Vincent. It's expected that we would only get through the plans and blueprints of the project itself. So that's what it was going to fund.
And that's falling under the public safety tax, or is that under the general fund?
That was moved to the general fund. I believe during a draft, it was under Measure B. We had moved it to general fund.
It's in the general fund under Fires Department.
Okay, perfect. And then what I didn't see was funding for an independent auditor for the public safety tax at the end of the year, which I know that we've kind of discussed that needs to happen. So are we going to add that, and where would that be added?
My understanding is, and we can change this direction, but my understanding is that the audit that happens for the city includes, as part of it, an audit on Measure B expenditures, revenue, and everything. So if it needs to be a separate document, we could use the same company that that helps us with the overall general fund, all of our audit. We can have it organized in a way that it's easy to comprehend and grasp for Measure B particularly.
Yeah, just to align it with our conversation that we had with our city attorney. I believe that our city attorney advised that it does need to be a separate independent audit, and that would allow for the planning that we have in place for the Citizens Committee to be able to send the reports, for us to gather the reports and give them to the auditor, and for us, for transparency purposes, to have that independent audit posted on the website.
Just talking about Measure B for a moment, tomorrow night is the Oversight Committee meeting for Measure B, and we've got a draft form that we'll show them that as we come back to the council with the public safety expenditure plan approval, it came last month as a draft, but as it gets approved by the council, that will give that guidance to that committee, and with the form, they'll be able to, in real time, vote and decide on any expenditures that they would like the council to review more closely. And we'll have that form ready at the meetings. And based on their votes, we'll be able to put the information down and bring that as a report to the council.
You're done. Okay. Anything?
Answer the second part of her question was where you would put it. The most logical place is there's a non-departmental professional services line within Measure B. And so at the time that you procure your auditor, you can do a budget amendment and place the cost in there. And it's Fund 0004, and then the department is 1050, and then your professional services.
Thank you.
Nothing? Okay. Alrighty, so I would like to have a motion regarding the budget.
Move to approve the budget.
Second.
Motion by Kale, second by Ambrose. Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Rochester?
No.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to reports and presentations from staff. Item 6, approving a cost share agreement with Merced County for a fire equipment mechanic. We've heard part of Chief's report. Now you can finish the rest of it.
Perfect. Good evening, Mayor, council, members of the public. Thank you for allowing me to address you this evening. I'll cover a few things, hopefully not repeat myself too much from the previous agenda item, but as we spoke about, this cost share agreement tonight is something that's extremely exciting, something that we've tried to look at improving on for several years now. It's a 50-50 split for one additional mechanic at the county shop at Castle. That would be funded half by Atwater City, half by Merced County. The amount of that position, as we just talked about, is $65,000, not to exceed. We will pay based on actual costs. As far as the positions go at the county shop, I think it's important for everybody to realize, and the question came up, that there is a bigger fleet with the county. The county currently funds 5 positions, actually, including the supervisory position, which is a battalion chief that oversees the shop on a 24/7 basis. They fund 2 full mechanic positions, 2 part-time positions, as well as the battalion chief position. So with the addition of the 1 mechanic, they would be paying for 5.5 positions at the shop, where the city would be paying for a half a mechanic. Based on fleet sizes and the specialized equipment that we carry with the ladder truck, we felt that that was a very close number in relation to number of apparatus when it relates to the number of mechanics that we're funding. Improvements and advantages to this agreement is obviously, as we just talked, overall cost. We're at $124,000, so the biggest thing would be trying to reduce that while also seeing a better turnaround time. And as we just talked about building revenue, I know that for several years, because we don't have depth in our fleet, meaning we have 1 reserve apparatus right now before we get our Type 6 or our Type 1 in, meaning if we have an engine go to the shop, we don't have any reserves because we cross-staff engine 42 and truck 42 at station 42. So with the quick turnaround times and having some additional equipment available, it would give us the opportunity to send equipment out for assistance by hire assignments, whether that's locally or up and down the state of California. I will touch a little bit on our current status. We have not seen any revenue really come back from sending equipment out other than command vehicles when myself or one of the other chief officers from the city of Atwater takes a strike team and goes on an incident. We're receiving revenue for that. When we got our 2 new command vehicles, that allowed us 2 reliable utility vehicles. And just out of those 4 pieces of equipment this fiscal year alone, we are at $40,000 in revenue that we've brought back in the pickups. During the Palisades fire, we did have an apparatus in service, so we were able to send engine 41 out, which brought us another, I think it was about $24,000. So we're right in the $60,000 mark right now, and that's with only 1 fire engine going out for a week. So as our fleet gets bigger, as we can see better turnaround times with repair and maintenance, we can see and have the ability of sending equipment out to hopefully bring revenue back to the city, which is a big deal in my eyes. A little other background, our city mechanics are inundated. Myself and Public Works Director Vincent have worked closely and tried to come up with some different options as far as what we can do. They're not heavy equipment mechanics, and they're not trained to be, and which is why we have to outsource most of the bigger work. As they're hoping this agreement will also improve their time, they can spend more time on other projects throughout the city as well. And some other alternative options that we had considered were, what if the city were to hire a mechanic? Well, we don't have the building, the facility, and the equipment, tools and equipment to be able to support that. We're at Castle Shop. They already have a full running shop that has lifts that can support heavy fire equipment apparatus, and we're not spending money on training or trying to, get our current mechanics to that position. And again, they're inundated with the work they have, so it put more on them, to move in that direction. Some other concerns that I kind of received in questions from the public is accountability. So like I spoke about in the last agenda item, that will be one of my job duties, and I want you all to understand that I am very vested with the city of Atwater, and I want to see what's best for the city. This option, I feel, is going to be a huge benefit to the city, and as far as what our investment is going to be. As I oversee that shop, I will ensure that it is a very beneficial agreement for both parties, though. I already talked about the depth, and then workload at the shop. I know it's been brought up that there's a lot of apparatus out at Castle Shop that's just been sitting there. There is a lot of surplus fire apparatus out there, so that is not equipment that is going back in service. There's a lot of equipment that's sitting out there. That's false information that that apparatus is been sitting there and unable to work on because they're backloaded. So again, I'll repeat, it is a 1-year agreement until June of next year. So it gives us the opportunity to reconsider this next year. And again, like I stated, we're going to look at trying to reanalyze everything at mid-year and ensure that it is been a beneficial agreement mainly for the city of Atwater. So we want to really focus on those turnaround times as well as cost savings. And if we see that that has been a positive impact, then I think that we can all buy in that we are benefiting from that. But again, we'll have a 30-day termination clause for either party to remove ourselves from the agreement, so it doesn't tie us for a long time period. In closing, again, I'm confident that it is going to be a huge benefit to the city, and I hope that moving forward, should it get approved, we're able to work closely. And like I said, I'll be leaving. Chief Randall, sitting in the back, will be taking over, and we work very closely together. So I just want to reiterate the fact that we're vested here with the city of Atwater, and want to make sure that it is going to be beneficial. So I do appreciate you reaching out with the questions and concerns, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to address them, and there would be questions out there. We want to make sure that there is clarity and you feel comfortable with the agreement that's put forth. So with that, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions?
I just had one question. I know you said it's 65,000 max, but we are going to be required to pay overtime, correct? So how would that be calculated, Chief Ayuso, in terms of how do we determine who's responsible for paying the overtime, or when does that kick in?
Good question. So the city of Atwater would pay the overtime rate if a fire apparatus within the city went out of service after hours. That's after 5 or weekends. Generally speaking, I'd say it's a rarity. However, the 65,000 is the max that the city would have to bear as far as cost goes. Very similar to the CAL FIRE agreement, our overtime is encompassed within that agreement. So we try to account for, like I said, the most that we could potentially spend without going over. Again, the max that the city would have to bear costs, it would be 65,000, and that would be up to us as chief officers in a supervisory role to keep accountability as far as what mechanic had to come in for what apparatus. Again, we do have reserve equipment, and with the Type 6 coming in, and the Type 1's a ways out, but we will have a little bit better depth in the fleet. So the idea or concept would be that we're not trying to pull equipment or pay overtime for a mechanic to come in after hours if we have a reserve apparatus that the chief officer can identify that they need to transfer over to.
Can you give an example of when it would be necessary to send a truck out? Because I heard you say that we may on occasion have to send a truck out. What would be an example of us needing to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So through CFAA agreement, the city of Atwater is allotted or allowed to send equipment out on assistance by hire agreement. So for example, last year we had the Pedro fire in Don Pedro. There was immediate need request for resources. They pulled 5 county engines to that fire. I was actually on that incident. That's an ability where we can pull equipment. Now we will come behind the equipment that goes out and backfill. And without going in too much depth with that, there is no additional bared cost for the city other than you start receiving revenue for the equipment going out with the personnel after 2 hours. the city starts receiving that funding. So if we have a major incident up and down the state of California, as we had the Palisades incident, those things, there is a request that goes through the OES system for local government resources to go out on assistance by hire.
I'm sorry, I probably wasn't clear. I meant for mechanic purposes.
Okay.
Like, so, and what would be did you mean that we would need to send trucks potentially out of the county because they weren't able to service them? Would there be those situations?
As they go out of county, there's the base camp support the service and maintenance of the apparatus. So that's not something that we would bear costs as far as a mechanic position going out. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. So no, there's no reason to. And like I said, I'll elaborate a little bit further that as our fleet, we get more depth in the fleet, we have the ability to put equipment out of service and have a backup engine to put in service. So we won't need to create overtime for a mechanic to come in after hours to make repairs unless for whatever reason we are down, at drawdown for equipment where we need to get it back in service. I will throw something else out there because we haven't had that good depth. We do work closely with our county partners, and I know that we've notified you guys over the last 6 months where we've had equipment in the shop and we had equipment go out of service where the county has loaned us fire engines, which, it's not something we want to rely on. We want to be able to, provide the service with our own equipment and be able to run our own fire department, but it is nice to have the cooperators next door that allow us to use the equipment so we can get back in service and serve the community. So.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
No other council questions? Is there any public comment on this item?
Hi, good evening, Linda Dash, Atwater. Now, you're talking about we. Is we being CAL FIRE or we being the county? Because like Atwater is small potatoes, so I didn't know how many fire trucks is going to be in there for repair. And would we take the back seat each time because something else was more priority? That was one of my big concerns. Is Atwater are we going to be sharing the garage with other cities that might have a contract with the county also? 'Cause, I mean, I'm a little paranoid of the county. We still haven't got paid enough for our sewer.
Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you
So
answered that already.
that's been a discussion as well. So the additional mechanic that, should this agreement pass, is funded half by the city of Atwater. However, that mechanic will be designated if a city of Atwater piece of equipment goes in the shop, they will be priority to work on city equipment, and that is per Chief Pimentel as well. Again, and as my new role in Merced County and being battalion chief overseeing the shop, again, I'm assuring you that I will ensure that there is accountability behind that being a priority. And then I'm sorry, Councilmember Rochester, were you more directly related to the question about the apparatus going to a third party? Is that where you were directing the question at?
Yes, I was most interested in knowing, like, under what circumstance might a mechanic from Merced County not be able to service? Like, can they service every single engine that we have? Do they have that capability? Because I know there's a lot of computerized stuff on these trucks, and so I just
Correct.
want to make sure they're able to service them all.
Great question. So there will be times where the equipment needs to go out. Now, that could be electronic issues, which there are warranties that come with the apparatus as well. So we ensure that the warranties are covered by the manufacturer. But again, Cummins motor, there's times where we have to send it to Cummins. And again, there is warranty work associated with that. And we try to do our best to ensure we're covered under warranty. Major motor repairs, transmission repairs, things that would require extensive time and commitment from our local mechanics, it would be a time where it would need to go out. So again, I think the biggest thing would be to reassess at mid-year and really look at, how much we've had to spend as far as overall costs for the mechanic as well as sending it to a third party.
Good, okay. I thought that's where you're gonna go with that question, yeah, so. But we got a lot of good information from you, Bobby, appreciate that. Is there any other public comment on this item? Seeing nobody come forward, I'm gonna close public comment. Who would like to make a motion?
I will comment that I'm comfortable with the fact that we're going to have a one-year agreement and that there is also the 30-day termination clause. And also, given the fact that Chief Ayuso has assured us that he would have the city's best interest when he's operating over there, I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rochester, second by Ambrose. Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Rochester?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, item 7, awarding a general construction contract with Consolidated Engineering for Olive Avenue overlay. Justin, give us a report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So, Janelle, can you put up the map? Yeah. So this project is a grind and overlay similar to First Street and to Fortuna and Suncrest. So the roadway shown, the project's gonna be between Winton Way and the city limits on Olive Avenue and 50 feet on each intersecting street. And all the sides and the 50 feet and on Olive will be repaved and restriped. This section of pavement is the most requested section of pavement to be replaced in the city. The city received 6 bids, with the lowest bid coming from Consolidated Engineering at $447,327, and this was over $200,000 less than the engineering estimate. Consolidated Engineering was actually the contractor that did the Fortuna and Suncrest overlay, so we know they do a good job at these type of projects, and when they did that project, there was no change orders at all. The work is anticipated to take place the first week of August and last 2 to 3 days. So staff will work with the contractor. We'll go out on foot, notify the residents about a month before the work starts, kind of let them know like, hey, the street's gonna be closed down. You can't have vehicles on it. And then we'll get the side streets as well. We'll talk to Dole, because I know a lot of the workers use that route to get to the plant. And then about 72 hours before the work starts, we'll put out the tow-away barricades and once again talk to the residents, say, hey, if you don't move your vehicles, we're going to have to tow them away. Other than that, if the council has any comments or questions, I'm here to answer.
Any council questions? I have a question. So I've gotten several complaints or concerns, I suppose, about speeders on that road, which is kind of surprising is the poor condition that it's in. But the concern is that once it's paved, for example, at Herman Street, which is the access to Eileen Colburn's school, I know they have a crossing guard there before and after school, there's crosswalks. But the other times of the day, that's kind of a blind intersection if you're on Herman and you're trying to either turn right or left because of the way people park on the street. There's a lot of on-street parking on Olive because those apartments never had adequate parking required back in the day. So what are we going to do to look at that situation?
Yeah, after the project's done, we can have the city's traffic engineer go out there and do an analysis and see if we need to add any more stop signs on Olive.
Okay, yeah, because it's pretty much it is a free reign from Winton Way all the way to the freeway.
Yeah, I know, and then a lot of the residents at that curve near Sierra Vista complain a lot too about traffic. We know when new pavement goes down, you could tell on Fruitland, the speed, people want to speed down it.
Yeah, okay. All right, so if council has no questions, is there any public comment on this item? Seeing nobody come forward, I'm going to close public comment. Who would like to make the motion?
Motion to approve staff's recommendation as presented.
Second.
Motion by Ambrose, second by Kale. Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose,
Yes.
Rochester,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right. Now we're on to item 8, Community Development Director Employment Agreement. City Manager is going to present the staff report.
Thank you. We went through a recruitment process, interviews, and I've selected a candidate to present to the council tonight. His name is John O'Connor. He's sitting in the audience here. We have his employment agreement before the council. And just a quick introduction for John. He brings over 20 years of experience, public and private sector in real estate development, project management, community planning. He's led different initiatives in economic development, partnerships, and regulatory compliance across multiple jurisdictions. And he's provided advisory and leadership and consultancy roles to the city of Eureka and Arcata, among others. So my recommendation is for the city council to approve his contract. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Does the council have any questions for Chris?
I do have a question. Under the take-home vehicle, under what circumstances would the Community and Economic Development Director need to respond to like an emergency situation? Is that why we're providing the take-home vehicle, or what is the purpose for that?
Every department head at the city of Atwater has the same benefit, and this benefit was copied from another department head's agreement.
The other question that I have is related to the reimbursement for the moving expenses. How are we, what are the internal mechanisms to track that?
Yeah, so to track that, he would provide receipts for reasonable relocation expenses to the finance department in a form that they would deem appropriate and necessary to provide those reimbursements.
Is there any questions? No? Okay. All righty. Is there any public comment on this item? So please come forward.
Linda Dash, Atwater. I'm really concerned with, number one, our budget is not the greatest. We're not in the best shape that we used to be or should be. I mean, sitting at home, your wife tells you, honey, I don't have enough money to buy groceries this month. He said, oh, wait a minute, let me hire a consultant. Maybe we can figure that out. I'm hoping that you think about this $10,000 moving expense. I mean, the guy saw the ad somewhere, and he chose to apply. I don't think we need to be paying taxpayers' money, our money, for him to $10,000 to move to Atwater. And the other thing that really concerns me is Eureka, Arcadia, that's like the cannabis capital of the world. And I looked at his resume, and I Googled this gentleman. He's probably a nice guy, but he's really been involved in a whole lot of the cannabis stuff up there. And I just hope he doesn't decide to turn Atwater into a cannabis. We got enough as it is. And that's a request for me. So I'm just really hoping that Mr. Holm, that this is the right one that you chose, because he has no background in community development, and that's what we desperately need. We don't need more pot. Thank you.
Good evening, Adam Reed. This one's kind of a tough one for me to get up and comment about because, as everybody's aware, I'm part of the development community. I do planning and design, and I do projects here in the city of Atwater. But I'm a resident too, lifelong resident. And the Community and Economic Development Director, or the CDD Director, doesn't just do economic development. A big part of their job is overseeing engineering, planning, and building. And a big part of it is the planning aspect of it. There's a lot that goes into planning, understanding CEQA understanding our municipal code. And there wasn't much information included in the packet, none that I could find that related to his experience or what he would bring as a as the head of the planning department, head of the engineering department, head of the building department. I hope he's got some if you guys are gonna hire him. Because we definitely, you guys all know we got problems in that department. Like, I think we're moving in a good direction, but we need good leadership there. We have excellent leadership other places in the city, but we need to do it, we need it there. We don't have a full-time city engineer. We can't seem to retain one. I've got an idea though. A lot of other small cities do this. They'll typically combine the city engineer with the public works director. That's not my idea. And Justin does an excellent job, and I would never want to jeopardize us losing him because he's an asset to us. Why don't we combine the CDD director with the city engineer and kill two birds with one stone and be able to like cast a net with some good money to get somebody that we can, that we can pay a very good wage to stay here in this city and be invested in this city, that comes with experience, that can guide this department in the direction it needs to go. A lot of our money comes through this department. You take utility bills out of what this city gets money for, and most of it comes through this department. So, yeah, I would definitely look at that as an option. And again, like I said, it's hard. I don't want any retaliation against me on any of my projects or any of my applications. If you guys choose to work with him, I'll go into it with eyes wide open, and hope that we can see eye to eye on things and move projects forward. Thank you.
I agree with what Adam just said about we need somebody that's going to be really proactive. We need a bulldog in there. We have nothing going on in this city of any measurable consequence. A Dutch Bros or something like that is not what we need. We need something much, much bigger. But to Councilmember Rochester's point about the vehicle, driving to and from home for community development, and frankly, Chris, I'm sorry, but that was a little insulting to say, well, that's the way we've done it. Everybody else gets it. Frankly, I don't care about what everybody else has done. This position with a vehicle, unless it's an electric vehicle, and even if it is electric, it doesn't matter. If this is a gas-powered vehicle, we're staring at another 67 cents per gallon here after 1 July. We're about ready to get screwed on SB1, the summer blend, refineries closing down, everything. Our expenses in this city are going to go skyrocketing, not only here, but also in everybody's household. So, to justify a car to go back and forth to home, even though it says in the contract, the one section above it says for city use only. And then you contradict yourself in the contract going down and it says to and from home. Which is it? So, this is no reflection on the gentleman himself. I've met him before the meeting and he's very personable, and he may be the bulldog that we need for development. But this car thing, I'm sorry, guys, we've got to break tradition here and start looking at numbers more than convenience.
All right, thank you. Next.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. Mr. O'Connor, I hope you can step in this role and fix a lot of problems that we've had for many, many years. Like Mr. Reed, I agree that we have a lot of issues in the engineering and planning department. I hope that you can come in and solve those problems. I've done a tremendous amount of development in this town. I never talk about it. I would love to see a change. I'd love to see a positive change. And if you bring that, sir, then you got my support, and I'll continue to stay and continue to do business in this town. Been here my whole life. Things need to change. I hope this gentleman brings the change, because what we had before obviously didn't bring anything to the table.
Anybody else? Seeing nobody else come forward, I'm going to close the public hearing, public comment, rather. Who would like to make a motion?
Motion to approve staff's recommendation as presented.
Second.
Motion by Ambrose, second by Kale. Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Rochester?
No.
Nelson?
I'll give him a shot. Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, now we are on to, welcome. Did you want to introduce him?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll introduce you at the end. Okay, now we're on to public comment.
At this time, any person may comment on any item which is not on the agenda. You may state your name and address for the record, however, is not required. Action will not be taken on an item that is not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and are placed on a future agenda. Please limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes.
And my usual statement here, under the Brown Act, members of the public must address the council as a legislative body of the city, not other members of the public or staff. I'm now opening public comment. Do we have any speaker cards?
We do not have any speaker cards, Mayor.
Okay, so if anybody has any comments, they're welcome to come to the podium now.
Rich Miller, 334 Silva Drive, pastor Victory Baptist, 1280 Sierra Vista Street. I'll finish with Chief Ayuso in a second, but I would like to say that I hope that our staff and our council do listen to the residents. There were some people that spoke tonight that don't often speak. So I know I get up here often. I know that some have views on me as a pastor speaking, but I am a resident, and I try to be more optimistic. I try to be more encouraging, but I do hope that everybody on the council and everybody in the staff is listening to the residents. I didn't realize when I came to the meeting tonight that this would be farewell to Chief Ayuso. I know he's not leaving the city as far as being around the city, but didn't realize this was going to be your last meeting. And I do want to say thank you to you. Once again, the Bible does tell us to honor those to whom honor is due. You have been very honorable. It's been good to get to know you. I appreciate your support, not only for our city, but for all that goes on in our city, for our church, and for my family. I appreciate you and just want to thank you for all of the hard work that you and our firefighters put in that a lot of people don't acknowledge, just like our police officers. When it comes to the toy drive and giving back to the community, you guys do so much. And so I know you're not going to probably miss being here on Monday nights, every other Monday night, but you will be missed in that sense. And once again, thankful that we'll still see you around in the area, but thank you for serving here in the city of Atwater.
Linda Dash Atwater, just very short. You're ending your fiscal year. You know, Measure B, and Bobby was one of them that was out there beating the pavement on the weekends and on his days off, trying to get our taxpayers to believe us and vote for Measure B, that we were going to have a lot of better things happen. But yet, not one police officer was hired using all that money that you got from us pounding the pavement You spent millions and millions of dollars, council, on other fine things, I guess. So I'm sure hoping, you know, you got a lot of money, I guess, so hope you can dig in your hip pockets and find some money for 2 more police officers, please, okay? That's what we promised the people that, when we beat the pavements and told them that we were going to have more police officers. And I think we were able to accommodate firefighters. They're doing wonderful. And I'm gonna miss you, Bobby. But I think the police kind of got the short end of the stick, and it's not fair. Thank you.
Yeah, going back to, back up here about this audit. I understand there was a public records request for the audits for Measure B, and there are none on file, and the ordinance is pretty specific. It says right in there that there's going to be audits to Measure B, and there are none. Who is dropping the ball within the city on something like that? That's not the way to do business, people. And I hope if there is something buried in a previous budget, that it can be produced, copied, and brought to the Oversight Committee meeting tomorrow night so we can all take a look at it. But I don't believe there is anything. Yeah, I think we dropped the ball on that. Secondly, I saw this flyer, if you will, from Chris on the trip to DC. As I predicted, you guys came back with nothing. You got a tour, you had dinners, you met with one of the biggest liberals up there in Washington, Adam Schiff, and Padilla, and all those guys. And really, what did you come back with? What was your goal? What was on your agenda going up there? Federal money isn't coming to us, and this pretty much says it. You know, you guys had a great time there, you know, getting tours of the Capitol and that kind of thing. But that's taxpayers' money that here several months ago I was talking about. And in the budget, you budget $5,000 to go to Washington, D.C. for One Voice. And for what? This is our money. It's not your money. And $5,000 may not seem like a lot, but when you come back with nothing, then what are we to think other than this was a 3-day junket that was for nothing? We need to rethink this business of going off to DC for One Voice and stop this bleed of, you know, whether it's 5,000 or 50,000, we've got to stop this bleed. This is our money, people, not yours.
Mayor, I'd like to speak directly to you first. I believe that Council Member Rochester deserves a public apology from you for the last week, for the last council meeting, the way that you spoke, interrupted her, didn't let her speak. It's clearly not acceptable. She deserves the same respect that you give the rest of the council. And I know you guys aren't used to being challenged. You're not used to answering hard questions, but these are questions that we, the people, deserve to know, and she's doing her job. And you guys want to go against her? Rochester's not going anywhere. She serves the people, all the people, and you guys serve just a few. You guys got caught with your hands in the cookie jar. The cookies are all gone, but the crumbs still linger on your hands and on your face. Take a hard look at what you guys do and what you don't do, and come together as a group, because that's what we're supposed to be, a team for Atwater to make it better, to make it successful. Being rude to a council member is not acceptable. On the other side, I'd like to speak about Fruitland very briefly. You guys have come in and you have built up that sidewalk and I have a ledge that you have put dirt all the way around my mow strip. That dirt has fallen into my yard, and it has created problems for my sprinkler system. It has been plugged up 3 times now. I would like that fixed and taken care of, or Atwater's going to get the bill. Let's talk about the little sign that's on Chardonnay. I specifically asked a worker to move that sign that blinks, that tells about the traffic and the routing. I've asked that to be moved because I cannot get my trailer into my backyard. I have double gates and I can't get it pulled in. So I've had to store it for 3 months now. And I'm not gonna pay another month. You guys are gonna get that bill because I asked a city worker to move it a couple of weeks ago. And I was talking with him and he called, I believe Justin, might have been Justin, and I heard the conversation, yes, move it back so I can get my trailer in. And they've yet to do that, and now I've just paid another month's rent for my trailer because I can't get it in because y'all won't move it. I know it wasn't moved because I went out and measured it to make sure that I knew that they did or didn't, and they did not move it. So that's another bill you guys are gonna get if you don't take care of it. The gravel out there,
Okay, you're, sorry, but your time is, if you get down to the nut of it there, I'll let you
well,
continue.
I'm hard of hearing and I can hardly hear you guys when you speak. So I speak louder, I apologize.
Oh, speaking loud is fine, no problem. But your time has expired. But I will let you continue.
Pardon me?
I will let you continue if you can wrap it up.
Actually, I don't have anything else to say.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Yes, sir.
Can I hand this to you guys or no?
You can give them to the city clerk there, Corey, and he'll pass them out.
Rudy Ibarra, 585 Village Circle Drive. Mr. Holmes, I've came to you twice about a couple things. One mentioning filtering out the bad for the city of Atwater. The second is Mr. Raymond not living in his district but still representing it. As you can see, Mr. Raymond is not here during this important meeting or agenda. Budget, voting on his new CDD director. I guess being at the bar today was more important instead. I guess that's a good enough reason not to show up, as you can see from the photos as they get passed to you. I'm trying to figure out, is that him not voting on anything tonight because his buddy Greg Thompson told him to no-show? I'm starting to see a pattern. When things are important, he is gone or smells like alcohol walking in. To me, that's impaired judgment. Then the other pictures you see are Mr. Raymond's RV at 301 Broadway in Mr. Ambry's district, where he is living out of and which is not in his district. Running sewage illegally, I believe it is against Atwater's municipal code, or tell me otherwise. I think this council should stand up for the citizens and show a vote of no confidence for Mr. Raymond, or maybe he would do the right thing and step down. He is obviously already checked out.
Anybody else? Good evening.
Council, sorry for me. I'm gonna miss Bobby Ayuso. I just wish him the best of luck at everything he does. Yes.
Thank you, Jeannie. Seeing nobody else come forward, I'm going to close public comment. And we will go with council reports. And we're going to start on this end today. Mr. Kale.
I'd like to congratulate the forensic team. That was so awesome. Chief, thanks for bringing that out, and thanks for helping those out. Those young folks out. I'd also like to welcome Mr. O'Connor. Good luck. I hope that we see positive changes coming out of from your direction, and trust me, you can already tell a close eye will be watched on you. And then, Bobby, it's always a pleasure. Gonna miss you here at your meetings. And I truly hope your Raiders get to be winners someday. Not happening. And then last, I'd like to say that the Castle Veterans Organization is celebrating the Women's Veterans Day on this Saturday. And I want to thank them for honoring these special people in our community. That's all I have.
I have nothing tonight.
Lisa.
I would like to congratulate the Atwater High School forensics team also, and to thank our Atwater Police Department for assisting them with practicing for their competition. I thought that was really awesome. I would also like to thank Chief Ayuso for his service to our city, and I'd like to welcome Chief Randall, not that you really need welcoming, but congratulate you on your role, your new role. I'd also like to welcome Mr. O'Connor to our city, and I hope that you will relocate here with your family and reap the benefits of living within the city of Atwater. The other thing that I have is I would like to see an update from staff on Osborne Park. I know that we discussed an expansion in the month of April, I do believe. It was put through for CEQA, so I would like to have an update on the Osborne Park expansion. And just to remind our good citizens in our city that, you know, I know that the 4th of July is approaching and we all enjoy the 4th of July holiday, but I am hearing the huge explosions that are taking place, and so I just like for everyone to be responsible and to think about the impacts that has, particularly on our soldiers who have PTSD and things of that nature. We just need to be mindful of that. So just a reminder to our citizens. Thank you.
Ditto to everything that was already said, but I also want to thank staff, especially Anna, for the budget work, and all the department heads for all the work that you did on that. Chris, for leading that charge on that. So your first budget, right? So I think I think you've all done a good job in coming up. You know, I know the comment was made about we should not have so much in reserves. We should pay off the structural deficit. But I think one thing you didn't say tonight that you have said elsewhere is it was over $1 million last year, and now you got it down to less than $500,000. So we are making progress on that. So congratulations on that. And fireworks, definitely. I think Janelle, weren't you pushing out something on social media about illegal fireworks?
Yes, it'll come out tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, thank you. And we do have the NAILM app. If you have people in your neighborhood that don't understand that illegal fireworks are just that, they're not safe and sane, feel free to turn them in. Yeah. And with that, I will turn it over to Chris, and he can finish up.
Thank you. We're going to have another city manager meetup on Thursday, June 26th at 1:30 to 3:30. It'll be at the Community Center at 760 East Bellevue Road. It happens to be the same time that we have our mobile office hours with our local electeds at the other levels. I want to mention that was brought up earlier, but we have a memo about the One Voice trip that I provided to the council, and there's some copies in the back of the room. I also want to give a thanks on behalf of the city of Atwater and extend our sincere gratitude to Battalion Chief Ayuso for over 10.5 years of dedicated service to our community, 6 as a captain, and in the past 4.5 as a battalion chief. His leadership, professionalism, and unwavering commitment to public safety has left a lasting impact on our city and its residents. His ability to guide the departments through emergencies, build strong interdepartmental partnerships, and continuously strive to enhance public safety has been deeply appreciated. He has been a pillar of strength and reliability, not only for our fire department, but for our entire team. We wish Bobby the very best in his next chapter, and he'll always be a part of the Atwater family. Thank you, Bobby. I also want to welcome our new battalion chief, Josh Randall. I'm still getting to know him, but he's a wonderful man. He has deep roots in the area and comes to us with vast experience. So thank you, both of you. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, with that, meeting adjourned.